don't operate here, just to be clear. It's called Vion Global Holdings. As a background, I've been in the profession. I'm a chartered accountant by profession, and I've been in the profession in the senior finance leadership role for about 20 years now. Most of my professional experience was back in the UK before I moved to the region a couple of years ago. For me, as Yasser said, without boring you with any details, technology, I know it's now AI, has always been an area that I've just explored all my life, right? And now since AI has come in the last few years, it became kind of a treasure trove for me that I can just spend a lot of time on. So experience with a lot of tools, with a lot of use cases in the past. But again, I think a lot of insights were picked up already that not every shiny tool out there is gonna work for you, right? So that I think that is the main conclusion that I've learned in the last 2.5 years, that don't just go out for every shiny tool which is being offered by the people who are just making them. For us, I think Ahmed mentioned, a lot of other people have mentioned, is starting from the problem that you're trying to sort out. I think if that's what we are clear about, that's where your AI is going to help you. Yeah. So I think that's some of the things that I've learned recently from the experience.
Yeah, exactly. And the reason also why we have this spotlight, even though as short as it is, but it's just to highlight maybe a couple of more concrete, practical stories, you know? So I think we discussed about it. So maybe let's explore something you tried recently that was more or less kind of a good story or a good example.
Agree. Yes, very happy to be. So I'll just maybe spend 30 seconds on what we needed from AI. So for us being a very large telecom operator, and when I say telecom operator, we own large telecom service providers in 5 different countries, right? We were 7, now we are on 5. They all are in different markets. And for this industry, what is very unique, a telecom operator in a particular market operates in line with what is needed in that particular market, right? Where I'm trying to go with this is that so we are based out of DIFC now as the global headquarters, right? When I'm sitting at the headquarters supporting the global CEO and the CFO, it's a very, very important that I understand the insights from the market, we consolidate them, and then we take it to the global leadership team. So, and that's where a very unique beast in terms of the industry. Where the struggle comes is all these different markets operate very different to each other, because a telecom operator would have to operate in line with the requirements of a country, the GDP of a country, and they are very different from each other, right? So and that's very critical, and is very unlike with a lot of other industries. So what we have started doing, I would say over 10 months ago, is how we provide those insights with AI implemented into it at the head office level. So we started with a journey whereby we started having these global dashboards, but that was more of a Power BI world in simple terms. We've got our own tool, which is able to provide in a real time almost to the global CEO and the CFO what is going on in our markets, right? A lot of the KPI is financial, non-financial, but that all gets provided. Very good to start with, very good base. But what is it not doing is, if the global CEO, the CFO sitting in the HQ has got any questions about what is changing my EBITDA per market in the last 3 months, the question is going to come back to us. In the previous world, I'll have to send it to my team. We're going to spend half of the day, try to work it out, and then give him the answer. And that is, I think, was one of the things where AI can definitely help us. So I know the 3 models that we looked at, Yasser. So we started with the AI chatbot, right? Just to simply ask questions from what is available on the screen. Yeah. Instead of me asking my team or the global CFO asking, they can get a lot of those insights by themselves by using that chatbot, right? But that is again not enough. That is a very basic chatbot of early days of ChatGPT, just giving me some simple answers. But now where we are going with that is to make sure it's connected to all the underlying data that we have. And that's where it's now, and our plan is, we are actually still working on it, is to provide us those predictive insights as well. Very simple examples. We've got our business in Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan as well. So if a law is changing in that country, how much impact it would have on the business in that particular country, how then it gets translated to us in the group. Definitely we can do it, but the amount of the time we'll spend on it, we want that to be reduced significantly. So that is a practical use case for us, to start with a chatbot, as we saw. Now taking it to an agent level, whereby that chatbot or agent, whatever you want to call it, goes in, look at my data. In going back to my example of one of the countries, I would expect, we work in frontier markets. I'm not in one of the European markets. European markets have got their own uses. I've got a very different use, right? in the markets that I operate, there are floods, there are a lot of other things happens which impact my business. I need to have all of that implemented into my AI as well. So that's kind of the thing that we are working on. It's proving to be really exciting.
But I would love to dig deeper just
Yeah.
a little bit in terms of what are the challenges
Yeah.
like throughout this journey. And I just want to mention, just because we're concluding right
Yeah.
now in 5 minutes or
Yeah.
so, just to mention that the roundtable, actually, I think what we noticed is that it was actually as part of the main session itself, which was nice actually. So that's what we tried to do. So actually right now we will transition quickly, like directly to the lunch. I think it's ready by this point. So back to you now. Yeah. So in terms of adoption, in terms of bringing this to people, because at the end of the day, people are behind these kind of transformations and decisions. How was it? How was the journey?
It wasn't easy. I think one thing, and I'm glad that a lot of these points came out as we were discussing, is managing expectations was the, I think probably the most difficult one, because again, especially the C-suite is like, oh, just bring this magic wand and it's just gonna give us everything tomorrow morning, right? So people were just expecting that we're gonna have this AI agent or AI chatbot, and suddenly we will have all these insights landing onto our desks. So managing expectations is definitely a key one. Then really defining as to what we are looking for. We took our time on that, right? From finance teams, from the C-suite to the business teams as well, as to what do we want this tool to do? Whatever you want to call it, what the tool should be doing. When we were doing it, we actually had multiple sessions on what is the expectation. If tomorrow it gets all implemented, what is our expectation from this particular tool? Which definitely meant what kind of the questions we get from the market, from the business teams, from the CEO, from the CFO, all of that came into that pot before we even started thinking about the agent.
And but then the question becomes, because a lot of these can be done, right? But how was it driven? So in this case, was there an identified owner for this to drive this forward?
Yeah. So definitely it sits within the CTO domain, if you like. The chief technology officer of the company is responsible for kind of getting the technology side of it. But I think it's very, very critical not to forget. And we didn't want to be in the days where CTO is sitting in his room thinking what finance needs, right? Yeah. Which is not different to going out for a tool, getting a tool of people who built it thinking what the world needs. Exactly. Though he's responsible from that perspective, but every single person actually joined that company, if you like, to build that, right? Bringing their own insights from the markets, we bringing in saying this is what the execs needs, what the board needs, what the CFO. So
it was co-designed.
Oh, definitely, without it. Yeah, exactly. And that's why we didn't go for a tool outside. Okay. We were doing it internally.
And how, because this is a decision that I'm sure a couple of people here already facing, which is how do you make the decision between when to go outside and when to go inside in this case?
I think that's a difficult question. It's again would depend that how much resources a company have. I think again it will depend on the size as well. For us, we are lucky that we're quite big from that perspective, and we were able to agree on a budget that we could spend. Secondly, I think again I'll touch upon the point of what you expect the tool to do. We thought about we did this analysis of, or do we go external, but we couldn't find anything kind of completely ready-made for us that we could pick up and implement. And we also, the second thing was we already had started our journey with our own chatbot. So we definitely wanted to develop on that. We had already been training something that we wanted to take to the next level. But again, I think there are definitely consideration in terms of the budget, the size, and the need of that particular tool. Sure. Some of those considerations need to be there when you are deciding on.
Well, I would love to, as a good conclusion into this story and into this session, to open the floor. Maybe any questions in terms of this example scenario, anything else we explored today?
Just out of curiosity, I think you learn by failing sometimes. Were there any use cases that you had that just couldn't get off the ground?
That's a good question, actually.
Sorry, go again. I didn't get it yet.
Were there any use cases that you had that couldn't get off the ground? You guys.
That's a very good question. I do remember not in Vion where I'm now. I was in a previous group, and a chatbot was developed thinking that we needed a lot of information from our intranet on a particular business, right? And it was just kind of one day we got an email saying from the US, which was our global headquarters, we got this chatbot and the whole excitement and announcement and all that, and we were very excited. And then, to be honest, after 6 months, we realized that nobody was interested in using it. And I think that was actually a very good example. But again, I'll have to give this to the company that it was the early days and everybody was exploring it. It really goes back to the point that before you are developing internally or going externally, you're really thinking about, okay, do I need it, right? Or is there a need for it?
Yeah.
Right. And then I do remember there was another reconciliation tool that we bought outside. It wasn't that expensive. We just a ready-made one. We just got it, and we never used it for the reconciliations because it wasn't doing proper reconciliations. We did initially. We like, because sometimes you're pushed into using it as well. So, and we were like, yeah, it's going to be brilliant. So we'll use it. And then you get the reconciliation, how the things were missing. People were actually redoing the whole reconciliation. And then slowly and gradually, we just stopped using it.
And this is the issue, like with AI, as you mentioned, in terms of like, if it's not ready, then people feel like they still need to do a lot of things to accommodate for it. So basically, they just prefer to do it themselves. Yeah. But overall, I think, any less maybe like.
It looks like everybody's going to ask very difficult questions. It's a tough one, right? And that's why I think the initial discussions about the whole ROI or value add is very tough at the moment. I would definitely link it back to my initial purpose of going for a tool or building a tool, right? What I'm looking for my tool to do at the moment is to democratize the whole insight generation, right? Reduce significantly the time it takes to generate those insights, right? So I think if these are the two that I'm expecting the tool to do, and if it achieves the 80-70% of that, I think I'll be happy, right? Whether I can put that into numbers at the moment is a hard one. But I can tell you from our initial chatbot as well, it reduced significant amount of the time in terms of we used to go back and then do all that research and then come back. Very simple questions. But when you're sitting in the headquarters and you've got the whole world reporting into you, those very simple questions are not easy. A simple movement in EBITDA will take me a couple of hours to go back, research all the markets, look at those numbers and come back. But if there is a tool which can just do all of that work for me and then come back to me with an answer, that's brilliant. And I think one thing probably I'll definitely add, what I've learned from a very minimal use of AI is, I think let's use AI for the things which it's good at the moment, at least, right?
Exactly.
The research, the data analysis, I think these are some of the things. But if you're expecting AI to make a strategic decision for you, whether you should go into a market or into a product, that's just not going to work. That's just not going to work.
Exactly. I think it goes back now, like as a good conclusion, turn around about what we mentioned initially, which is the maturity layer is increasing, but it's gradually independent on each use cases. You can see already where the AI is.
Like I've seen like everybody's AI or chat GPT works different 5 times. The result maybe what I'm getting from my chat GPT and the research, it is real crystal because I've done it specifically from my office doing it's not. So it's going to be like, your chat GPT will give the different result basis your, prompts.
Definitely. I think that's whole about I think the contextualization, all these talks which are happening in the moment is. But I'll tell you, before I answer that, Vinita, it's not very different to, and I think Aman mentioned it earlier, that just thinking about an employee in my company or my teammate, right? The person would have been trained in a particular way. They'll perform the task in a particular way. Maybe another colleague of yours in the same level, same department as well would have been trained in a slightly different way, would behave in a slightly different way, right?
Yeah.
And I think there's just so many researches on that now that, especially on the chat GPT, it was about, it agrees to everything that you say, right? It went to like very risky levels of, should I commit a suicide? They were like, you should commit a suicide, right? I mean, very scary things. But it's the maturity point. I think these technologies will mature and everybody's learning. In fact, those companies are learning as well, right?
And in terms of adoption, exactly, I think a lot of these layers, which seems not so much big, still needs to be an underlying layer, even for small things to be adopted, such as chatbot, which is like, how can it be trained within the same context for everyone, not having different contexts for different people, etc. So that's why an ecosystem suite that have all of these 3 modes together is better, because also it's not good to adopt like fractured tools, which is, I think, another challenge when it comes to deciding these things, like one thing for like a chatbot, one thing for like reconciliation.
Tell me about it. It's like, I think it's, even if you're not talking about AI, you're talking about ERPs, and I know some experts are here in this room. I mean, we have all experienced this in the groups whereby 100 companies, 100 different systems, and how difficult it is to bring it all together. AI is no different from that perspective.
And then any concluding word just in terms of what's looking up ahead? What are you looking forward to? What do you think is the next thing?
For me, I think personally, and from a company perspective as well, and don't remember somebody said it, that there's just no magic way of using or learning AI. You'll only learn it by using it. So I think we all will have to go through this phase of experimenting when it comes to the corporate world. We'll have to think about the risks, information, and leakage and all that as well. But I don't think so there is any running away from it anymore. So don't run away from it.
Yeah.
That's probably the only thing I would say.
That's a good takeaway.
Yeah.
And that's a good conclusion, because these chances, opportunities we get to see, like, and share insights amongst each other and be there amongst each other and see what's happening. These are like very important during this transition period. We're all in the same boat,
Yeah.
maybe in different, not the different kind of resources and different states. But yeah, thanks again for having everyone here. Thanks again,
Thank you.
Shaheen.
Thanks so much. Thank you.